This is the fifth in a series, fifth and final episode of a series on College and Career Insight Month that we've been doing. So over the last 5 weeks, we've been walking both high school and college students through the process of deciding that they want to go to university, how they kind of figure out a right fit school for them, what they do once they get on campus, how to make an internship relationship beneficial for them, and now bringing it to a close here with, oh my God, I graduated, now what? So one of the first guys we called here was a good friend of mine, Chad Collins with Legacy Search. Chad and I have known each other probably for over a decade, going back to our days in minor league hockey, him with the Idaho Steelheads, me with the San Diego Gulls, and I'm sure, Chad, at some point this will come up in your journey today. But, Chad was a part of two of the best-known minor league organizations in the country with the Sacramento River Cats before that. So what a cool part of the industry to address and kind of talk about that, but I'm excited. So Chad has assembled an amazing group of folks. I'm so excited. And that's been one of the cool things for us in this process is, somehow we got 3 folks on here that we've never crossed paths in the industry with in a significant way, which is Marcus and I were talking about before. It's sort of surprising because it's just such a small world. But anyhow, I'm really excited to pass it over to Chad and to the rest of our panelists here today and take everybody through the rest of the series. Just one quick housekeeping item. Obviously, for our panelists, keep your microphones on mute throughout. But for the attendees, please feel free to use the chat function. We'll save time for Q&A at the end. But if there are things that you want to either get clarity on or dig a little deeper into, feel free to use that chat button. That'll basically be my function while everybody else is running the show here. Is I'll keep an eye on that and try to make sure that we answer as many questions as we can. So that being said, Chad, take us away, and thank you again for everybody being here.
Thank you, Jeff, Sam, and Sports Biz Camps. Honored to be here. As Jeff talked about, we have a long history of minor league sports together. I now run a company called Legacy Search, which is a recruiting firm based out here in the West, and we recruit mid to high level executives within sports. So honored to be here and have 3 great panelists with Marcus Myrick of the United Soccer League, USL for short, Katie Conroy with the San Francisco 49ers, and Harrison Avigdor with USA Basketball /NBA. So I'll turn it over. I don't want to do a lot of talking. I'm just going to ask questions, but I will tell you little housekeeping. What we will talk about is we will start with introductions. Then we will move to, it's a combination of networking and your brand, social media, very important. We'll then go to what else could I do besides networking? Let's try some conferences, see if we can get in the door there. Then we're going to move to, oh my goodness, I got my first call. What do I do in sports? How do I interview? We'll talk a little bit about that, but and then we'll end with do's in your career, what you can do once you get in the door. So those are very important things. So with that, I'm going to go to the left of my screen, and I'll start with Marcus Myrick. Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're living right now, where you went to college, and what you're currently doing.
Thanks, Chad. Pleasure to be here. Thanks, everybody, for making time in your day to attend this. My name is Marcus Myrick. I'm the Director of Club Services for United Soccer Leagues, located here in Tampa, Florida. We are on ESPN this coming Sunday for our championship final at 8:30. So make sure you tune in and watch that and boost those great old cable TV numbers. Went to University of Massachusetts at Amherst, one of the best sport management programs anywhere on the planet. I'm very fortunate to be here. I've been in the industry 20 plus years. And like Jeff said, I'm actually surprised that, with the exception of Chad, I'm meeting all of these people for the first time. So I'm very excited, very Pleased to be here with you guys today. Chad, I'll throw it right back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Marcus. We'll move on to Katie.
Hi, everyone. Katie Conroy. I am currently living in San Jose, California, where I also grew up. I went to Cal Poly down in San Luis Obispo and did the sport management concentration there, which I am also very proud of. And then, currently I'm working for the 49ers on the premium team with a suites focus.
Thanks, Katie. Harrison, we'll move to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. Thanks, Jeff and Sam, for organizing and everyone joining. Excited to be here. My name is Harrison Avigdor. As Chad mentioned, I work at the NBA League office and focus on all of USA Basketball's business and revenue generating opportunities. So I'm based here in New York. Now working out of a small apartment office instead of a midtown office, but still New York. And I went to Syracuse University, so been in the New York area for the last handful of years.
Thanks, Harrison. Last night we had a prep call. We all talked, and we talked about when we first had that aha moment of how, when did it kind of click for us to get into sports? When did it hit? Was it in college? Was it in high school? Was it as a kid? I shared with the group that my first experience was going to an Oakland A's baseball game at 7 years old and seeing the lights, seeing the players, seeing the field, smelling the grass, the popcorn. It was unbelievable. And I knew that if I couldn't be a player for the Oakland A's, then I wanted to work in the front office. I didn't know that quite at that time, but that was kind of my aha moment. And then fast forward to college, where I went to the University of Idaho. My junior year, I took my first internship, and that was with the sports information department through Idaho. And then my last year, I took a marketing internship with the University of Idaho. And at that point is where I really felt like I wanted to get into sports. So that's my brief story, but I'll just kind of randomly pick. Let's go back to you, Harrison. What was yours?
Yeah, I would say I have two quick ones, right? The first one is realizing that there was an opportunity to have a career in sports. I think, around, junior year of high school, right, when you're starting to think about going to college and trying to pick a major, I was like, oh, like I like sports journalism. I like covering sports. So that's kind of where I started. It was just writing for local sports in my hometown of Arizona, covering things like that and realizing that there was an opportunity. And then I think once I was in college and started reading about the NBA and teams, and then eventually interning for the Phoenix Suns and actually seeing that you can work in the arena itself and literally see the court from your office, I was like, well, this is it. Like, I got to end up somewhere in sports and professional basketball. And just having grown up and watching the Suns and just being there and seeing the draft and all of that, I was like, you got to find out where that path is. But that's how I knew, I had to land somewhere in sports.
Thanks, Harrison. And Harrison, you and I have known each other for quite a while. You had reached out to me when I was working for Prodigy Sports at that time. You had reached out to me as a freshman in college, and you were doing a project, and you randomly cold called me, and I accepted your call, and we talked about your project. We talked about how to get into sports. Take me back through that. How many internships did you do before you landed with the NBA?
Yeah, so at Syracuse, one of the first things they tell you in that sport management program is internships are everything, followed by, you should get some experience in sales. So, starting freshman year with that first assignment, which was, reach out to an industry professional you don't know. So, appreciate you picking up that call, Chad, because I don't know how I ended up landing on you and making that connection. But the goal is every year. So I did an internship every summer. So that would have been 4 kind of throughout college. And then you try to, layer on with, remote experiences and things on campus like that. But my goal was always, every summer, stay busy, do something, remotely involved in sports. It may not be exactly what you want to do, right? You don't have that much experience necessarily as a freshman, a sophomore in college, but do something that can kind of tell that story that, hey, I want to work in sports. This is what I'm doing to kind of, do my part to get there. And then throughout the year, right, I'm talking to, people like you, Chad, and understanding what you're doing and what's actually happening in the industry, so that when I get to that internship, I'm ready with that information and I know what's going on.
Right. Great. And how many total did you take? How many internships? 3, 4?
I think probably 5 throughout college. Yeah. And that honestly may have been on the low end to some of my classmates, right? There's some people that are doing that every semester. Some people are working jobs. But my goal was 1 a year. And then there were some opportunities where, there may have been 2 in a year.
As the audience can tell, it's competitive out there. I mean, here's a guy like Harrison taking 5 internships. So it's competitive. Let's move to Katie. How about you?
Yeah, I think Harrison nailed a few points there that are probably true for everyone. Kind of one, coming to the realization that, the tickets don't sell themselves, and, sponsorship's an asset there as well. And there's so many different, avenues to take in the world of sports. So I think it was partly that, partly, I've played sports my whole life growing up, including in college. So I think that, that was also an avenue that made sense for me to explore a little bit further. And then, ultimately, also hearing, what other people were choosing for their majors, and, counting didn't really, feel too exciting, or, what I wanted to do by any means. So I think it's a kind of a combination of the 3 of those things.
Thanks for sharing. Marcus, I'll move to you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely a young age. Just growing up watching the hometown team struggle. That's why I wanted to do it. I was like, look, I want to be, GM. I want to pick these players because we stink, and I'm tired of us stinking. I want to win. But very similar to like Harrison and Katie, like played sports growing up. I wrote about sports. And for me, I remember I was watching the Iowa State in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, I want to say in '95. And there's this guy at the free throw line that said his major was sport management. And I was like, there's no way that's what I think it is. And I did the research, and I'm like, oh, it's the business of sport? I was like, this is definitely what I'm going to major in. This, like, first of all, I'll get A's in it. There's going to be money. Secondly, this is exactly what I want to do. So that was the aha moment for me. And I think Katie and Harrison nailed it. Exactly. You got to work hard. It's very competitive. You got to do your internships and just really continue to put yourself out there and be aggressive to a point where you say, hey, look, I really, truly want to be in the industry.
Thanks, guys. Just had to unmute there. Let's move on. I know we have a short window here. We have about 45 minutes left. Thanks for participating in introductions. Let's move. I want to move on to, and it's kind of a 2-part topic that we'll discuss, is networking, which we all know is very important. You've probably discussed these in the last, 4 panels, and then also your brand, social media. So I'll stay with you, Marcus, here, and let's talk about. Oh my God, I just graduated college. Now what? Let's talk about our brand and how we can work on that first, especially when it comes to social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, even Facebook and Instagram. What are some of maybe the do's, with that? Marcus, I'll take it to you.
I think first, Chad, it's a good question. It starts first with your email address. If you're going to be emailing jobs, don't get the college fun email. Just something very professional. Your first and your last name at whatever carrier you want to have it be at. Because, again, that's how you're representing yourself to the world. Your brand is so important, and especially in today's stage with social media. And I'll let Katie and Harrison talk about this because, one, I didn't have it coming out of college. Yes, I am that old. It's just more fuel to the fire. It's more resources that employers can potentially look at to really find out who you are prior to you even getting to the interview. So it's so important that you're clean, you're buttoned up on your social, and if you're not, make it private so that way only your friends can see it. Now, I'll turn it back over to you, Chad, or just go to Katie and Harrison to continue on the social media aspect of it.
Yeah, whoever would like to, take this, Katie, if you want to add to that or anything.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think Marcus hit on it again. Employers hiring anyone in the hiring position, they're going to, stalk you, if you will. They're going to look you up on, Instagram. They're going to look you up on LinkedIn. They're going to look you up on Twitter, Facebook. They're going to do all their research. And as they should. So yeah, I think, if you're going to be posting a lot of, college type photos of parties and things like that, definitely keep your account on private, or, maybe second guess if you even need to post those. But when it comes to social media, I think what's most important isn't, what you have, but kind of what you don't have. So, making sure your, 21st bar crawl isn't on your Twitter feed, or you're not retweeting inappropriate things or things like that. So really making the distinction between, the professional person you're putting out there.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I mean, first of all, it's good to hear that confirmed. I know Marcus confirmed it last night as a hiring manager. I always wondered if that was real, if they really did go through your Facebook and your Instagram. Because I remember applying to internships. I was like, well, I'll keep it clean just in case. But do they really, have the time to go through 1,000 applicants and their social handles? So good to know that's actually a thing. And I would say for me, in addition to what Katie and Marcus said, is, I use social media a lot to, and this may segue us into that next topic of networking, right? I use it more to connect with people and to, learn information. So I'll use Twitter, for example, for news, and, especially in the sports industry, most of that news is broken on Twitter. And even within my own company at the NBA, there's information I'm learning from Woj and Shams because they're just so quick with the information. And they may have a better source than me. So I'm using it to collect information there, and I'm also there to find people, right? I could, Chad, right? Like I could connect with you, and you're in Idaho, I'm in New York. We've actually never connected in person, but we've been in touch for over 5 years now through social media platforms and things like that. So I'd encourage everyone here too, right? Use that to find whatever you're interested in going into, and especially these days with Zoom and the pandemic, right? We're connecting at a higher level, people around the country now more than ever. So, it's a great time to really leverage these platforms, build your profile, but also really use it to find people you're interested in and find jobs and things like that you want to explore further.
Thanks guys. I will add, just from my world, in the recruiting world, I'll tell a little story here. I was recruiting a candidate for a G League NBA team. We were down to our final 3, and the president was kind of looking through social media, and he saw this person's Twitter account, LinkedIn account, all good, until he started digging a little bit deeper. And the candidate was following some things that president didn't think he should be following, or he didn't care, but he just didn't want that in the office environment if he were to hire that person. What if this guy's screen time is something that's inappropriate? So that's what got me as a recruiter to start looking more into candidates' background, especially not necessarily like if I get 100 candidates, I'm not going through everybody's, but when it got down to the top 3 candidates, then we kind of start digging into references and backgrounds. So just keep that buttoned up, like Katie said. Marcus, you got?
Yeah, Chad, I think you bring a good point. And one thing you have to remember as an applicant is that your brand is now going to be connected to the brand. And all 3 of us are representing, brands on here that are worth multi-million dollars, and frankly, Katie and Harrison's case, billions of dollars. And the enterprises are not going to, jeopardize that simply because you want to have your 21st bar crawl on Instagram, on your Instagram stories. Like it's too valuable to jeopardize. So it's not only your brand, but it's also, think about the brand that you're potentially joining and what that brand says about you.
Yep, exactly. I'll add, what do you think, Katie? I'll go to you. Is what's appropriate on LinkedIn? I mean, do you think, or any of you guys, if you want to jump in, what do you recommend that they do as far as picture? Maybe they're new, they don't really have the job experience, but they want to list some things. Maybe they're a volunteer coach. Maybe can you step me through like what maybe they could do on LinkedIn to get started? Because some may not even have a LinkedIn account, but others may, but they don't know what to put on there. Can you help us with that?
Yeah. So I think, first thing you touched on was the photo. So, not everyone has a professional headshot. So using a photo from graduation where you don't have your friends in it. So it's cropped where it's just you, or maybe it's a nice photo from Thanksgiving where you're cropping out your family members or something like that. I think those are good places to start. And I've used both of those before. And then when it comes to experience and, listing things on LinkedIn, internships are important, skill sets. I don't think necessarily you need to mark that you're an expert in Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint, because hopefully at this point we all are, because I think we grew up around it. But maybe more relevant things like maybe you're an expert networker or things like that. So, listing things that other people might have in common to start connections and kind of grow from there.
Perfect. Thanks. Sorry, I just unmuted again. Let's move to networking. We're going to move this kind of. I mean, if I'm a college grad, and we touch on this a little bit, but Marcus, how do I start networking? Who do I connect with? I don't know anybody in the industry. Maybe I took an internship with sports or not in sports, but who should I connect with?
Alumni. Start with people who graduated from your program. That was day one intro to sport management at UMass, and it was literally call up anybody that was in the UMass family sport management major and just say, hey, look, I'm a freshman, I'm a sophomore, I just graduated. Hey, I was wondering if I could pick your brain for 10 minutes. They will put you on their calendar. Like if there's anybody on here that's from UMass, you now know who I am. Ask for 10 minutes on my calendar, you will get it. So that's a good place to start. Don't be afraid if you've got a connection in because your family knows somebody, use it. Absolutely use it. There is no shame in that. Don't feel like you're cheating the system because you have a connection through your mom who knows so-and-so from her work, or dad who knows so-and-so from their work. You utilize your network as best you can. And then I think it's also about taking advantages of the opportunities that presented themselves to you in college. And Katie, I'll throw it to you because that was actually something I think you did very well when we talked last night.
Yeah, again, using your alumni network is huge. I think asking professors for help and guidance, that's what they're there for. But I think a big part is, again, LinkedIn. It makes it so easy for us. You can look at someone's profile and, maybe if you don't know anything about the college they went to, maybe you went somewhere around there for vacation one time and remember a good restaurant, and that can be your opening line. Just anything to when you're sending the LinkedIn request, that it isn't just blank, because those get old. And, I think Chad can probably speak to that. He gets probably quite a few of those with just nothing and no context at all. That's not super helpful. And then I think, when you do get someone's time, those 10 minutes that Marcus already volunteered up for for himself, do your research and prep ahead of time. Don't ask us, what college we went to. Of course, use that connection and build off of it, but have questions ready and, make them specific, not just very broad, things that you can really take away and learn from, I think is a good thing to do.
Nice. I will add that like Katie said, I get a ton of LinkedIn requests, but the ones that I'm going to focus on first are the ones that, well, first and foremost are interested in our industry, but write me a note. It can just be a sentence or two. There's a part when you connect with somebody, you can write a little note saying, love to connect with you. I'm thinking about getting into the sports industry. Would love to be part of your network. So that I'll accept right away, but others I'll usually accept, but it's not top of mind. So Harrison, I'm going to move to you as far as networking, and we go back to when you connected with me 5-6 years ago. What about the old-fashioned cold call and cold calling to network, or emailing hiring managers, which you probably did a lot before you got your first full-time gig? So what's your thought there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You need to differentiate yourself, right? So you think of, so my freshman year, I'm thinking of all the kids that are in my Syracuse program, and that's my competition. But then as I kind of go through college, right, I start thinking it's much bigger than, right, who's on my campus. It's, right, Marcus at UMass and all of his classmates, and then people in other industries. So you think of all these people in such a competitive industry, right? And they're trying to do the same thing. So how do you separate yourself in that way? And I think Marcus and Katie touched on some of those ways, right? Through LinkedIn, through research. But, Chad, right? You receive a lot of outreach from people, right? So a cold call, it's in a way harder to reject a cold call, right? They may just pick up and then you're on with them, and you have a couple minutes to keep them on and see if you can keep the conversation going or set a meeting. So, a cold call is always different, because I thought, my classmates are probably going to write an email or going to, message you on LinkedIn. So I did cold calls. And then another way, I did, of course, trying to do it through a mutual connection. So, right, I would talk to Chad or get connected with someone, whether in my network or not. And then I would always ask them, like, hey, is there, this is what I'm interested in. Is there anyone you would recommend, me talking to? And if, Chad could put me in touch with one person, they're much more likely to have that call with me. If Chad said, hey, I talked to Harrison, he's interested in the NBA, would you mind talking to him? And then I would say, kind of on the other side of it, and another way to kind of separate yourself is, if someone does give you the time, and it's kind of old school, but I would also do handwritten notes, after internships, sometimes just after a call, right? I mean, freshman, sophomore year, I was just happy that people in sports were picking up my calls. So a way for them to, remember me and separate myself and maybe, get a job or something down the road from them. I would just write a quick note, not, just thank you, but for them to actually get it in the mail. That then kind of separates myself. And then, as I look for internships, it's something to remember me by. So I kind of use cold calls, handwritten notes, and some of those mutual touch points, just to get on people's calendar. And then, once you're in the room or you're on the phone, then it's up to you to do that research, like Katie mentioned. But it's important to do that work before you even get there.
Thanks. Yeah, good story. I had a recruiting gig that I was working on, and it was for a sponsorship sales role, and he had just learned that he interviewed with the hiring manager. It was the VP of corporate partnerships with an NHL team. He had learned that the hiring manager just had a baby. And so, boom, automatically he sent him a handwritten note with a little $5 Starbucks card. And I thought that was really cool. And it stood out to the hiring manager. Now, I'm not saying everybody should send out Starbucks cards, but it was a good example of just him listening and something that would catch the hiring manager's eyes. So Marcus, moving to you on the networking point, we've talked about cold calls and cold emails. If I'm doing that and I'm Chad Collins, I call Marcus over at the USL because I'm interested in a job, but gosh, I only called once and I only sent one email, but Marcus isn't returning my calls or emails. Is there something wrong with me?
No. Well, I mean, no and yes. No, there's nothing wrong with you, but yes, you haven't worked hard enough. you got to remember that our everybody's day in sport is super busy, and that was pre-pandemic. Even now, Katie and Harrison, myself, we're probably working, 2 other things that weren't assigned to us prior to the beginning of all of this. So you got to be persistent. And I think Harrison touched on it earlier. You got to call, you got to email, you got to write notes, you got to make yourself stand out. Because again, there's so many people that want to work in this industry. Fun fact, like one of my classmates actually hired the guy that hired Harrison. Right? So like that's what you're talking about when it comes to this stuff. It's competitive. And if it's just going to be, oh, hey, I'm just going to call, I'm going to leave a voicemail message, I'm going to send an email, and then call it a day, like it's not good enough. It's not good enough. You got to prove to us that you really want it. So take the time, stand out, be persistent, and I guarantee if you do that, you'll get a call back. You'll get time on people's calendars for sure.
Okay, guys, a little break in the action here. We just got our first question from Brandon Morales. We'll move to this since we're talking about networking. How did you get your first role in sports out of college? I know we've talked about internships, what we're doing now, but is there anything that we can fill Brandon in on how we got our first role in sports? And I'll start. I told you that I did 2 internships at the University of Idaho. I went home to my native town of Vacaville, California. I substitute taught for a while. And then I was looking on all the job boards. Don't laugh, I was faxing in resumes. Email was there, but you couldn't attach a resume at that time. So I was trying to get on with my hometown Giants or Oakland A's or San Francisco 49ers or Sacramento Kings. Couldn't do it. So a buddy of mine and I went to the baseball winter meetings in December, and I thought, oh boy, all the pro teams are going to be there. 2 teams were there, the Pirates and the Mets. And at that time they were cellar dwellers. So they were looking for people to sell tickets. I didn't want to move out east. So I saw a job as a stadium operations manager with the Boise Hawks single A minor league team, and interviewed with them, had friends and family here in the Boise area where I currently live, and took my first job in minor league sports. I took my job not knowing how much was paid, and I got paid. It was a seasonal position with the company, and believe it or not, I was only making $700 a month. So living off my college savings and living on a buddy's couch. So I will turn it over to Katie. How did you get, your first role in sports out of college?
Yeah, so I started, it kind of was an internship that led into my first job. So before graduating, we have a senior project that we have to do, which is a little bit of a paper and then an internship. So I was working for the city of San Luis Obispo in the tourism department. And a big part of what I did there was schedule hotel rooms in the city for visiting teams. And, part of being a student athlete at Cal Poly and then having that connection with the athletic department gave me a little bit more of a professional side for them to view me by. And then, a big part of the athletic department there is also Learfield IMG College. And so I got connected with the GM there that handled sponsorship and marketing, and kind of one thing led to another, and it was a referral, and that's how I got my foot in the door.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. Marcus, how about you?
I got mine on a referral. That network. I was sitting at home after I graduated. I had nothing. I called up the internship director at UMass, and I was like, look, I got nothing. No leads, nothing. Literally, I'm sitting at home just ready. He called up an old SID buddy of his at the University of Maryland who took my resume and did not know me at all, took it on the word of somebody he knew, and got my resume in front of the hiring manager in the ticket office. And then called me back, and he called his buddy back. I got a call from our internship director. He said, the University of Maryland's going to call you in 15 minutes. Be ready. That's how I got my job. I got my job site, like, I didn't even know it was even available. And then I ended up getting that start and working there for like 2.5 years. And I think that's the important thing. Like, it's, you gotta network. You got, every job I've had, I got in on a network. Everything I've had.
And to this day, you're one of the best at networking. You still network and know everybody. Well, except for Jeff and Sam, obviously, but you just got to know them. I don't know why you guys hadn't crossed paths. So, yeah. Harrison, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, to build on the theme, but it relationships is really how it's, from internship to internship to jobs is kind of how it's all connected. So to be honest, I won't even, or very rarely will even apply to a job without trying to get connected or sending a note to someone in the company to let them know, just because I know there's a pile of, maybe a digital pile, but a digital pile of 1,000 applicants, and it's hard to get, found through there. So for me, it started with the Suns, being within the NBA family. They knew some people at the league office, and they had connected me with a group that works closely with the teams called Team Marketing and Business Operations, also known as Teambo. So I got connected to my next internship for one through the Suns. And then once I was at the league office doing an internship, obviously you want to, leave a good impression. But I stayed in touch, that was my junior year of college. So I stayed in touch with some of the folks that I worked with over the years. And then when it came to, the job I'm in now, became available, I just let them know. I was like, hey, I'm interested, I'm applying, anything, you can do kind of to help me out would be great. So the guy that interviewed me at first for that internship back my junior year, reached out to some people, and some of the people he knew, were very close friends with my, current boss and the hiring manager. So again, just like Marcus was saying, right, people just putting in word for you and can just, if they can't help you but they like you, they'll put you in touch with the right person. So, I think that's, it helped me get the interview, and I don't know if I would have gotten the job without that connection. So it's all about those relationships and just staying in touch with them.
Good stuff, guys. We're getting questions. We're getting hit up. So I like it. I love the interaction. This one's from, and I apologize if well, now it's gone. From Lana. Lana says, what's your advice for a recent graduate who is a hard worker but doesn't know exactly what they want to pursue? How do you know what a good starting job is for your career? I try to reflect a lot on what I'm good at, passionate about, but still feel lost at times. So, good question. It's, recent grad. Looks like Marcus, you want to jump on that?
Absolutely. Love it. Lana, thanks for the question. It's a great question. I'll give you the same advice that my dad actually gave to me. Find something in this business that you would do for free, and then figure out how to get paid for it. Because if you do that, you will never work in this industry a day in your life. I love selling. I love connecting with people. I love seeing people get, be happy at matches. God, it's so rewarding, and they pay me for this. It's an amazing feeling. Katie, what's your take on that?
I think that that's probably pretty spot on for your first job, because you're probably not going to get paid a lot in sports, and especially for, your first internship or, whatever is available. So I think that's a good take. I don't think a lot of us necessarily got into sports for the big paycheck, but mostly, who we're working with and who we're working for, and, the excitement of game day and things like that, can kind of make up for a little bit of that. But I think part of it is just getting your foot in the door, whether, like Chad said, stadium ops isn't always the most glorious position, but if you start and that's the only thing that's available, or, you know, the box office or anything for a team, or, you know, the city that you want to live in, start there and then make connections while you're working there and work your way up. I know, you know, people that I am coworkers with, they started in the box office. You know, I started in sponsorship. I didn't think that I would be necessarily where I am and what position I'm in today, you know, 4 or 5 years down the road. So if you don't know what you want to do, start anywhere and kind of figure out if you like it. And if you don't, then, you know, you might move on to the next thing.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, like Katie just said, I was in stadium operations. I had no idea. I was not the handy guy that could fix stadium seats, or I had no idea. But what it did is that same company also owned a minor league hockey team here in town that I could move over, because I came in on a seasonal job making nothing, but I loved it. I loved being around the people. I loved being around the baseball field. And then boom, a sales position, a ticket sales AE pops up within the same umbrella organization. And then I take my first sales job in ticket sales with the Idaho Steelheads hockey team. So you just never know. But yeah, stadium ops wasn't really my thing, but it was fun. But I was more of a people person and loved to talk and bring excitement to fans. So Harrison,
Chad,
anything else? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Harrison, I didn't mean to jump in on you here, but Chad brings up something very important, and I think it really addresses Maraka's question. The eyes are always on you. So sometimes, you know, taking that job and then excelling at that job gets you noticed. And, you know, the question was, you know, what separates average interns from those that get noticed? One, I'm a hiring manager. I don't hire average interns. If you're average for me, you ain't working for me for long. I want exceptional interns because I'm trying to help you get in and get into the family. You know, I'm trying to help you get on and start your career. So the only way to do that is by excelling in the role that you have. And when you excel in the role that you have, people are going to start asking questions behind the scenes because they see your work ethic. I know, Harrison, you probably know off the NBA interns that you guys have in your department, there's probably like one or two, right, that you're like, oh yeah, we're going to help him. We're going to help her.
Yeah, I mean, you can quickly tell, at least within the NBA internship program, right? So some of these leagues, some of these programs are big, right? We had 50 when I interned there, 60. But you could quickly tell without really knowing that there was, not necessarily to call them out, but to call them out, there was a handful that were kind of handpicked, were an owner's kid or a team president's kid. And not that they might not have been qualified, but you could tell that there were some people that had a lot more work experience and were just working harder and really wanted the job, versus some were just there because it was a good experience for them. So I think it is very quickly, you can tell kind of who rises to the top. And I think to answer Lana's question, I would say, I think it's an ongoing process, right? I think a lot of people, you know, some people find it right away, but I think a lot of people throughout their career, and I'll say even for myself, like, you know, you start getting a better idea, but I definitely don't know for sure, you know, is this going to be the final thing I want to do, or it may shift. So for me, part of it, and this is what internships is great for, and this is what networking is great for, is you can kind of figure out what you don't like too. And that's just as valuable as figuring out what you do like. So as I went through an internship, or as I talked to someone, I was like, well, I wouldn't want to do that. That's not the kind of work I want to do. And I could kind of check that off my list. And that's kind of how I saw my internships, was it's kind of putting me on this path to figuring out what I want to do. And my goal is just, when I graduated, I wanted to have a good idea, so that a starting point wasn't necessarily at zero. It was, you know, a step up. This is what I think I want to do, and let me go from there. So just think about, you know, the things that you may already be doing or reading about, or things that you would do in your free time. And if you see yourself reading a lot about whatever, the NFL and a certain, you know, sponsorships behind the NFL, maybe start looking or talking to people in that area, and just kind of evaluate yourself on where you're spending your time already without a job.
Great stuff, guys. We have about 15 minutes left, and wow, this has gone quick. So just moving right along, we talked a little bit about networking, social. Let's talk a little bit about conferences maybe that they can attend. I know, for example, my good friend Ron Seaver with the National Sports Forum, he always says, hey, if there's any college seniors that may not be able, that want to come, if you call him, he usually gives a discount on the conference attendees to attend this, or he'll even complimentary give you a badge. So it's just getting out there. Like for me, I had to pay my own way to go out to the winter meetings. Of all places, it was New Orleans, so we had a lot of fun. But I did end up getting a job. So these are other places you can go to the National Sports Forum. Any others that you guys would recommend?
I think especially now you can take advantage of everything being virtual. I think you hit on it a little bit. Like as of this week, I'm participating in the ALSD. I've been to other conferences and things like that. But I know just 2 days ago, the 49ers held a virtual career day. And I've seen, plenty of other sports teams doing similar things to that. So I mean, take advantage of those. You don't even have to travel or leave your house. And I think, especially on the virtual side, they're a little bit more cost effective, if not totally free. So definitely doing some research on that.
And with these conferences, Katie, to add to that, they always have breakouts for networking. So, yeah, as hard as it nerve-wracking, sure, but you just have to put yourself out there. Like Marcus would tell you, you just have to stand out and introduce yourself. And so there's National Sports Forum, there's the Association of Luxury Suite Directors, there's the baseball winter meetings. I bet if you were to email one of the hockey leagues, they would probably say, yeah, we're doing it at this time, this place, so people are very open. They want to help sincerely. They do. Any others, Marcus?
I would think on the collegiate side, you got NACMA, which is NACMA, NACDA, NATSO. Basically, if it's in there, don't forget your analytics piece now. MIT Sloan, if you're into the analytics piece, that's one you got to be at. But it's there. Like I think that's the big thing, is that if you want it, it's out there. You just got to do research, which again is part of the reason of standing out and going that extra effort to prove you really want to be in the industry.
Yeah, and I'll just add a final couple that I've attended personally are on the collegiate level. Michigan Sports Business Conference has had some great speakers in the past. And the other one, and always done virtually, I think, but I think Hashtag Sports does a good one. I think they did one last week virtually as well. And I would say when I did actually attend in person, one thing I did, it's kind of funny, but I brought a business card when I was in college, right? So didn't have a job, but the Syracuse program told you, put a card down, right? Your year, your information, whatever, it could be basic, but something again that makes you stand out. So when it got to that networking part of the conference, I would, and who knows, these may have been thrown away, but I would give whoever I was talking to or interested in a business card, I would ask for theirs, and then I would quickly kind of follow up and do some of those things that we've already talked about in terms of connect on LinkedIn and get those touch points as a way to kind of build the network and stay in touch with them.
Perfect. We got about 10 minutes left. Want to also mention, hey, everybody, whoever's on this, feel free to connect with any of us. I think we're all pretty open to answering any questions via email, LinkedIn, link in with us. I guest lecture at Boise State here once or twice a year, and I always tell the students, hey, connect with me and let's start building a relationship. So for me, I'm sure the rest of the group would say yes. Feel free to connect with them as well. So another job board you can also look at is Teamwork Online, Work in Sports. I'm just going through my list here. So that should do it. Next topic. I want to move on. You applied for a job. You got a phone call. It's oh my God, I got a call. What now? What do I do? I'm nervous. I don't know what to do here. What's the next step? Katie, what do you got? What do you think they should do?
Well, I think we mentioned it a couple times already, but definitely prep like your life depends on it. Know specifics for the job that you're going to be talking about. And, on top of that, especially if it's a phone call, add a little life to it. It's stressful and it's scary, but at the end of the day, the people hiring you, they're going to be working with you. So come across as a good human and, someone that they would look forward to seeing in the office every day. Just basic things that, we might think are, come firsthand, but when you're on your first call, you're super nervous, so preparation can help with both of those things.
Yeah, Katie, that's an excellent point. I think the other thing too is come with questions. I am a hiring manager. We are having an internship. So if you're looking for an internship, USL Club Services, I get 4. Okay, so come with questions that are related to it. Because if you don't ask questions, you're sending an intentional signal that I'm just doing this because I'm trying to find something, and that's not helping me. You got to start asking yourself, what value do I bring to the table, and start saying, well, here's the things that I know I'm good at. Here are the things I know I bring to the table. Here's how I can help you, how I can be a resource for you. Because the other piece is that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. One of the things early in your career is that your first manager can make or break your career. You get a good one, they'll open up a lot of doors for you. You get a bad one, and you may never recover. So definitely make sure you have questions and you take that time to really prep, as Katie said.
Guys, and I'll open this too, is, okay, I'm fairly new to this industry, but what kind of questions should I ask? What are some good examples of some good questions that I should ask for let's call it a account executive ticket sales role? Is there any suggestions that you guys might have for candidates that maybe they just got the job interview, it's a phone screen, they want to learn more about the position? What kind of questions, any examples that you can give them?
Yeah, there's a question that I absolutely love getting from candidates is, for the people who work for you, what are they doing now? Where are they at in their career? I love that question, because that tells me you're sending the signal, I want a career, not just a job. Right? Talk to us about, what's your training program? How are you going to make sure I'm successful if I'm the right fit for this? So it's got to be those questions, that they're asking you, somewhat flip them back and say, okay, all right, great. I've said why I think I'm the right fit. Now let me ask you this. How are you going to make sure I'm successful?
Yeah, I think a couple good questions to ask are, what are their goals for the department in the next year or two? And then asking, what they would consider a successful year for you, whether that be hitting X dollars in revenue or, working on X numbers of renewals, things like that. And then, asking if there's room for upward mobility, and kind of, are they taking notice if they're always hiring from within for those upper level jobs, or if they're always hiring from outside, and kind of looking at the culture that they cultivate.
Yeah, both nailed it on the head. I would say one that I ask in probably every interview is, what does success look like in this role? So I want to start, like Marcus was mentioning, right? Start thinking in the future, and if I do get it, right, what do I need to be doing to be successful? Make sure that I'm able to do that. And then the other thing is coming with questions about not even necessarily the role sometimes, but about like the things they're facing in their business. So if I'm, doing a ticket sales role, right, it's, well, what are, with attendance coming down, what are some of the things you're doing to combat, these new regulations? What are new creative ways you're, selling ticketing packages? What are your strategies? So just researching, that vertical of the business, and showing, the hiring manager that what's going on in their space. You're ready to hit the ground running when you do come in. And I think that's especially important for internships and entry-level jobs when, they're looking for, right, the best interns, ambitious people that can grow within the company.
Great. Thank you, guys. Jeff, do we have time for one more topic? Or we need to wrap this up?
We got about 5 minutes left. So if we want, maybe have some closing thoughts, and then we can talk out from there.
Sure. Thanks. Last topic I want to, let's say you get the job, you're in now, you're entry level, you got to work your tail off. Let's cover this. Dues in your career, right when you get in, what should we be doing? Just rattle them off. I know a lot of them are going to be, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer, but it's true. Just anyone want to just jump in and say, hey, I'll say, always work hard. Things aren't going to come easy, so you got to really work for them. You can't, in sales, you can't just shoot out 50 emails and expect people to get back to you. You got to pick up that phone. So,
yeah, Chad, I think that's an excellent point. I think the other thing is, remember that even when you don't think it, people are watching. Even when you have no idea, people are watching, and it's all the way at the top. Especially in really good organizations, people are always going to be watching. They're going to be checking your work. They're going to see how hard you're working, and really the thing, just focus on your success in that role. Don't worry about, I want to eventually become, the executive vice president of basketball operations. Focus on being good at the role you have, and then those doors will open up for you.
Yeah. I mean, I had a president that I'd see him walk in the stadium and he would just pick up garbage. Wow. Okay. So then I started doing that. Just the little things of doing that. People see that, whether you know it or not. So, Katie, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of hit on it a little bit, but the little things aren't so little. Showing up consistently a minute late, people notice things like that. I think hustling is huge, especially in sports. Being able to communicate effectively is huge. And then also having, emotional IQ. So being able to read people and then using that to kind of tailor your responses, especially on the sales side. And then, from that, being able to kind of build trust. So yeah, all of that. And then being coachable, being a good listener.
Harrison, anything to add?
And the one ad I'll throw in here to wrap us is build your reputation. So for, I think, most of the people here, right, you're starting your first jobs, you're doing internships, and it's going to be a journey, right? I always say I got like 40 years to go until I retire, right? So I got a long time. I got a lot of days of work to go. So build that reputation, because the industry is, as you can see just from this panel and how this was put together and how this got connected, it's a small industry. And even if it's a job you don't like, a boss you don't like, they're going to know someone that may ultimately be a boss of yours or a colleague of yours. So whatever it is, right, just show up, be positive, be consistent, and just do good work, and just have that reputation of, all right, well, I know, Katie is, always there on time, good at her job, and that will go a long way in, mobility in your career, mobility within the role, the organization you're in. So always be cognizant of how you're showing up at work, and now, I guess, on Zoom.
Well, that's about all I have, Jeff, unless we have any other questions from the participants.
No, that was fantastic. First of all, thank you to everybody for sharing so openly about your successes, some of the challenges along the way. and really providing the students with some specific and tangible takeaways. To the attendees, just as a quick reminder, not only are the panelists here people who were in your shoes not all that long ago, as Marcus pointed out a couple of times, they're hiring managers. These are people responsible for, bringing the next generation of young folks on board. So, take these little insights that they provided, seriously, because this is what they're hearing on a day-to-day basis. These are the things that impress them. These are things that open up opportunities for young people in the industry. So again, thank you to all of our attendees. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Moving forward for November, we'll be doing a series on women in sports, talking about, again, some of the challenges that women face, best practices, solutions for overcoming adversity, all that good stuff. All of our social is at Sports Biz Camp. So as we get more specific information, follow it on there. And this discussion, as well as all of ours, are also on the YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So for those of you high schoolers or college students, please let your teachers or professors know that that's a resource, and have them feel free to reach us out so that we can kind of help them repurpose some of this information so that it can continue to be a benefit in the classroom moving forward.
Well, thank you guys. We appreciate it. We're honored to be with you, Jeff and Sam and Patrick. You guys are doing some great things. So
Can't thank you all enough. Couldn't be doing great things without you all sharing all this great insight and great information with our students. So thank you for going out of your way and proactively looking for opportunities to do so.